Welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Richard Miller, and our co-host and all-round general son of a gun in Calgary, Canada, is Dr. Luke Gledall. How you doing today, Luke?
Hey, Rich, how's it going?
Oh, very good, very good.
Awesome.
So we said in our first episode that we were going to be fortnightly or bi-weekly. And here we are, 1 week later. So we're liars. But this sort of comes by way of a bonus episode, a Brucey bonus, because the situation that we were talking our way through last week has come to a head of sorts, has come to fruition. And Steve Bruce walked out the door on Monday. Maybe as a result of the podcast, I think the overwhelming pressure that we thought that was the worst of all worlds was him now staying after his flirtation with Newcastle United. So this counts as breaking news, certainly. So we should play our excellent new intro.
Breaking hoo-hoos.
Breaking hoo-hoos indeed. So as we imagined, Bruce has batted his eyelashes and has left, has resigned. The compensation, I think, is still being sorted out right now. That's kind of gone a bit quiet, but I think that's coming to a head sometime soon. But yeah, once again, we are presented with the laundry list of out-of-work managers and a few kind of strange foreign names in there to look over and just get generally depressed about, as we do as Wednesday fans, don't we, Rich?
Yeah, spicing things up, those foreign names. Well, yeah, the batting of the eyelashes may have been going on for a lot longer than we all thought, because supposedly it takes quite a long time to get a work permit for China. And the fact that he sort of left his post at Wednesday on Monday and was in China on Thursday, unless Mike Ashley sort of moved mountains for Brucey, then something untoward was going on for a lot longer than we thought.
Yeah, pretty underhand. Pretty underhand.
I mean, it was something that left a bad taste in the mouth anyway, but yeah, seems to be worse than we even imagined.
Yeah, now we've got the fun thing of how many weeks until we're just under 2 weeks until the season kicks off, and then 2 and a bit weeks until the transfer window closes. So how much time is a new person going to come in? How's that going to give them chance to instill or infer any kind of like sense of style of play?
Yeah.
Know who the players they want to keep are, know who the player, well, you don't have a choice at this point, right? It's just, you just go with what you've given, which isn't terrible, and I feel like hopefully there's probably a lot of managers looking at this, and I say out of work because I don't see Transeri going for anybody who's in contracts and doing negotiations for somebody, even though I kind of wish that would be true, looking at some of the names.
Well, yeah, it also feels like it would be strange to be trying to get a kind of compensation deal out of someone when we've sort of made a point of standing our ground with the Newcastle United.
Yeah.
It's tricky in terms of people coming in. The nice thing is, I think most of the decisions made by Bruce prior to leaving were sensible ones that everybody probably would have gone along with.
Yeah.
In terms of who was let go, addressing clear weaknesses within the squad. So the person coming in has got a much better squad at this stage during the summer than we started the summer with, I think.
Yeah.
So that does give me some hope, definitely.
And I mean, really, all we are kind of really, we're not that far off something not being I mean, everybody always wants to improve a squad. Everybody wants
Yeah.
something that's exceptional and something that's going to, blister and tear the league a new one. But to be realistic, against a kind of complete, fully formed squad with options, we're not that far off, really.
No.
What do you think we need? We need another centre back.
Probably, yep.
Holding midfielder would probably do with another one of those.
Yeah.
Because we've got Hutchinson, who's made of biscuits, and Pelopessi, who's not really got there yet, if he's going to get there at all.
Yeah, I've got a real soft spot for Pelopessi, but
do you?
Yeah, I don't know.
When has this come up before? This seems like this is breaking hoo-hoos to me here, Rich. I haven't heard this before.
I think he's sort of, well, he's prone to a bit of a clanger. Obviously, that's not one of the reasons that I like him. But he does. Yeah, he does. Every game, he seems to play one scything pass through the middle of our own defence. If we're lucky, the goalkeeper or one of the defenders latches onto it quicker than the.
So these are all positives.
These are all the big positives.
These are all the big hit positives. Yeah.
No, but I think he sort of he reliably puts a shift in, and doesn't seem to go hiding particularly. Yeah, I mean he's not wonderful, but I think he does a job. And the few times that he was kind of thrust into the middle of things towards the end of last season, he very rarely let us down when Hutch kind of one of his biscuits got too soggy and had to to vacate.
It was too readily dunked into the into the Sheffield Wednesday tea. Was Hutchinson's biscuits limbs.
The physio grades him on a scale from rich tea all the way up to hobnob, and some days.
Which just to kind of walk through that analogy with myself and the listeners, Rich. What level is rich tea? Is that the poorest of the biscuits?
That's very low end. Yeah, rich
low
tea
end biscuit
doesn't stand up to much scrutiny.
Rich tea, low end biscuit is a good episode title. I think. That's pretty good, though.
Rich tea is a lovely biscuit, but dunking wise, you really have to mind your P's and Q's.
Do we get some of the more higher end of the scale? We start involving chocolate. Is that what happens with this?
Well, chocolate certainly adds a bit of solidity, a bit of backbone. Yeah.
Right. So Hutchinson needs a bit of chocolate this season.
Yeah, I would be spreading chocolate on his knees, just in case. Just a bit of
Nutella potentially. Mind you, Nutella is technically more. Is Nutella more chocolate or hazelnut?
Oh, it's tough. If we go for Cadbury spread, I think we're fine. Do you know what I mean?
Cadbury spread. Okay.
Yeah, you've got the elasticity of the spread, but also the solidity of the chocolate. I think that might be the ideal solution. Just massive packets of chocolate spread on both knees, taped on with the fancy tape that sort of Deli Alley and the like have on all over their legs. I think we might be fixing things here. I mean, last week we covered the importance of chips in pre and during season preparation. So if they're on top of the chip situation, they're not having too many chips, they're not having too few chips, and we break out the Cadbury's.
And now that I'm becoming the new sports science assistant alongside Tony Strudwick,
who's staying,
he's staying, so he would stay. I mean, when you get the job, Rich, from your excellent championship manager record.
Yes.
Though to be fair, let's be honest, just to kind of undercut this comedy analogy, everybody who has a pulse is good at championship manager, right? That is the qualification for being good at championship manager.
I haven't been good at Championship Manager since the switch to Football Manager, to be honest.
Right. I think everybody.
There's a level of complication that left me behind and may rule me out of the Sheffield Wednesday IRL post. I've skirted around that in the CV that I've submitted. But the obvious question is going to be, what have you done since 2013? And I don't have a great answer.
Well, I think your answer is, well, just look at my transferable skills.
Yes.
They speak for themselves. Let me tell you this, Mr. Chansiri.
One of the most successful things I ever did as a football manager in the past was co-manage a really big team like Manchester United and buy all of my bad players for lots and lots of money and sell all of their good players to me for very little money. Therefore, cashola, money in the bank, and also improving the quality of the squad.
Followed up the sentence, this is an important point to take in, Mr. Chansiri, following the challenges for financial fair play that your Sheffield Wednesday Football Club are facing. I don't think it has, no. Route. You just buy another football club and just do that. Yeah. It should happen, really, shouldn't it? I mean, we've lived in the world of Watford and feeder clubs.
Yeah.
And, the kind of familial clubs sending on players on loan. But when are we just going to see real life football championship manager played by people who are just dicking around, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the next level, I think, for the what is essentially quite a silly game. I think that's the way to go. It's where we go next.
It's a silly real life. It's getting sillier. We're emulating a silly game.
Perfect. How did we get onto Chips and Hutch again?
We were talking about Pelopessi and Hutchinson.
Yeah, I was talking through my
chocolate on the knees
love for little Joey.
Little Joey.
He's a handsome dude. He's got, keeps his hair in check. His eyebrows are they're on fleek.
They are on fleek, as the kids.
Yeah. And you've got that fun factor of when he takes a shot, is it going to beam into the top corner? Is it going to roll along the floor? Will he miss it altogether? Will it leave the stadium? Those are fun things to have. Keep you on your toes.
Indeed.
Yeah, but anyway, I think generally the squad's in a decent shape.
The squad's in pretty decent shape. Would you? I think I'd like another winger as well.
Well, that's one of the supposedly one of the options in sorting out the mess of Bruce walking out and compensation, etc. Is that we may end up with players either on loan or permanent as part of our payoff. So rather than getting cash, we might end up with an Aarons or a Lazar potentially.
I don't know if that's going to happen. That feels a bit
spurious.
That feels a bit championship manager. That feels a bit.
We've covered already that we're living in a championship manager world.
And we are just championship manager girls. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, in almost every way. Another bit of breaking hoo-hoos. We've put to bed the game against Kiel. We've seen it out. 3-2 victory. Goals from Rhodes and Fletcher. That will teach them to have ideas above their station as a motorway services.
Have you been to the Kiel motorway services station, Rich?
I've been. I might go there today. I'm actually headed to Birmingham this afternoon, so I might pop in again just to do the classic sort of L on my forehead and really rub it in for them. Idiots thinking that they're a German football team when they're a service station by Stoke-on-Trent.
And then we had another friendly. Was that Lübeck against
Lübeck? Yep.
Giants where we pretty much rang out a second string and rang out a second as well.
That's what we did. Yeah.
It's difficult, especially in this environment, and always to kind of look at any element of pre-season and try and gather any sense around what it is. I looked at the highlights, not watched, kind of very loosely, sparingly through kind of, 100-yard stare, possibly looking at my TV with those highlights. And yeah, it was. It looked all the more tedious and looked like we were ran rugged by what, a third or fourth tier German side.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They looked incredibly leggy, and I know that there's been a lot of training sessions, so it looks like it's something which it's just a pre-season friendly, isn't it? It's just
that's the important thing, really, is getting through running and getting through the minutes, isn't it? Rather than win. It's nice to win as well, but it doesn't really tell us anything. The fact that we kind of beat up on some pretty low-level opposition before we left for the tour, makes you feel good, all those wins. But it doesn't really lead anywhere. Yeah. Was it Bobby Robson that did that with England?
Did he do what with England, sorry?
I think maybe before Italia 90, or maybe it was another tournament. He sort of played San Marino and stuff like that, and maybe even some club teams, so that they would build their confidence. So the idea was that you go and play like Shamrock Rovers and beat them 5-0, so that when you then went to the World Cup, you'd be feeling 10 feet high and sail through everything.
Yeah, exactly. We went and put 7 past Glen Toran. Look at us now.
Yes, exactly. The Germans will be quaking in their boots.
And they're quaking in their boots, yeah.
So do we want to go through the grey list of grey men?
The grey list of grey men. Should we do the new kit first before we let's have a little bit of fun?
No, I'm happy to do
new kit who this, as the scrubbers across the city pronounce. Did you see their horrendous media launch?
I saw bits. A bit like you watching the highlights. I was sort of watching it with a faraway stare and a disdainful look in my eye.
I just think that we can agree, and especially I'll get onto this in regards to ourselves, all media launches these days are just on a spectrum of cringe.
Yes.
It's just, why is it just has to be, you have to have someone like, coming up behind, oh, we have like a slight reveal. We've got a new player. Oh, we can see their silhouettes. Oh, it's this guy. Oh, we knew he was going to sign because we heard rumors. Or now he's coming in, so we're behind him and we follow him going into the training ground.
Oh, yeah.
And all this stuff. Did you see the, so they just did that horrendously tedious. I think that's the thing. We can say all of these things. You're like, well, it was well made. It wasn't like our podcast. They're actually production values, money spent, dedicated professionals, all things we don't have and are not. But
I've splashed out on a soundboard, which is going to take things to the next level. If you ever do a joke at any stage, I'm ready. I'm ready to roll with that.
If I ever do a joke at any stage.
If you ever do a joke.
If I ever do a joke at any stage.
If you could warm me up a little bit ahead of time, because obviously I need to unlock the phone and get to the right page in the app. But
oh,
maybe starting with, have you heard this one? Sorry, I completely.
Or joke forthcoming.
Yes.
So
what did
basically,
what did you think of our?
So, just to say, all media things are cringe. They're all terrible. You follow a player into the training ground. Oh, we're behind him. Oh, we don't know who he is. Oh, there's a shirt on the wall at the dressing room. Oh, we're gonna turn it around and show you the name. All that stuff, and it's just. Did you see the Mansfield one? With the Mansfield CEO Carolyn Radford, who's the young bit of skirt who's married to the older gentleman, rich older gentleman who runs Mansfield, and her picking up Nicki Maynard at the training camp in Portugal, all soundtrack to a instrumental of Fergie's "Glamorous."
Wow.
Yeah, description I think just kind of covers it, but if you want to see. If you want to see a video of a young gentleman who just regretting his entire new employment choice, I think you can use that as a good video to kind of capture that.
Texting his agent, next time I sign a contract, it has to be that I will never do one of these again.
And then there's a whole ream of these. I've made lists of like I just went down a real rabbit hole of just the worst moments of.
Are you going to use the phrase "bit of skirt" again, or are you going to hold off on that one?
I'm going to hold off on "bit of skirts." Now that I've reflected on it, it sounds impeccably sexist. I'm sure she is a lovely human being. I'm sure she's nice to animals. I'm sure she has lots of things. But moving on, Aston Villa did two a few years back. They did one where John Terry joined a WhatsApp chat.
Oh yeah,
and that was just awful.
Making Steve Staunton and Gabby Agbonlahor leave. And
all the black
bar as well. So I think that was the John Terry has that rule, doesn't he, in the dressing room? No blacks, no Irish, no dogs. So that's why they immediately left the WhatsApp group, I'm sure.
Exactly. And then did you ever see that they did a Love Island Tyrone Mings when Tyrone Mings signed? There's just all these hideous, awful. So
the Chelsea one was pretty bad with Rudiger. I remember that one.
Oh yeah, the kid,
the little girl going into the shop and saying, "Would you want Rudiger on the back of your shirt?" I can't. He's not signed. And then he comes out of a cupboard
in the closet,
covered in the club shop. Actually, I have signed. Brilliant. Just waving his contract in front of her tiny little joyous face.
Have to do a second take when he comes out with some cobwebs over his face.
We've signed a workaday centre-back. Yes! As a 7-year-old girl, that's exactly who I want on the back of my shirt.
So the new Wednesday kits, we've had a bunch of teasers, which we thought were teasers towards that, but we had some teasers and then a long bit of space in the middle. I thought that was weird. It seemed there was probably a scheduled release for the media teasing the shirts, and then it just went quiet.
I think it was just he's got a lot of homework. It's getting towards the end of the term. Chansiri is in charge of all our social media, isn't he? Because I think the first one went out at like 3 a.m, which seems weird UK time, but in Thailand that was fine. That was just before he was getting down to homework.
I see. But as the thing said, so Wednesday celebrates the 8-bit revolution.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of the 8-bit revolution, Rich?
I haven't.
No, neither have I.
I'm a sort of trendy guy, but 8-bit revolution was new to me.
Another episode title suggestion: "Children of the 8-bit revolution" is one I've written down here as well. And I have some overarching questions. So in the video, Lucas Zhao and looked on by a couple of colleagues. Can't remember who. I think it's Moses and Moses Adebayo, Kadeem Harris, I think.
Oh, maybe Kadeem. Yeah.
And he's playing a Sheffield Wednesday mobile video game.
Yeah.
Which I really want to see the release of.
Well, with the 8-bit revolution, that's just a matter of time.
It seems to be purely replicating Stephen Fletcher's overhead goal against Swansea. That seems to be what you do in the game. And then when you do that, you unlock a kit.
I think it sounds like a good game. It's the sort of thing you see advertised on Instagram, and it'll go like it's harder than it looks, or something like that. It's kind of tease you in. Or the new way they seem to the new way they seem to advertise these games is is that Mom is really good at it and Dad is bad. I don't really know what I'm supposed to take away from that, but maybe I need to exert my masculinity by being good at a mobile game and really showing women that they're not up to the scratch when it comes to, making Stephen Fletcher do overhead kicks.
It looks like the game looks like it reminds me of something like Total Soccer Manager, some really terrible third-rate football management game. And one that I think contains my favorite of those terrible management games, which is when you do the ground improvements.
Oh.
And I hope it comes out like one where you can like upgrade the bricks in the ground.
Oh, beautiful. Yes.
One where you buy undersoil heating. I used to like that in Premier Manager. Used to buy undersoil heating and just bankrupt my conference team. Just on the vague hope that my game against Altrincham will go ahead.
Yeah.
In the first week of December.
Worth it, I think. Imagine the money you'd lose not having that game.
That'd be like maybe £3,000 or something, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Oh yeah,
so
those were good games. Those were the days. Well, yeah, let's roll that back. Let's have it. It's nearly summer holidays for At, isn't it? So he can get cracking on it.
So, but yeah, I like the new kit. I like the stripes on the. Well, were we previously told that we couldn't have stripes on the back? That was a giant no-no.
I don't think there's ever been a rule about it, but certainly commentators moan about it.
Right.
But I don't. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, there's never been a kind of law forbidding it. But you'll certainly get the likes of Alan Biggs moaning. Yeah, I like the stripes on the back. I particularly like the away kit a lot.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Yeah. Especially if we wear it with the green goalkeeper's jersey. We'll really confuse teams, I think, which is...
we can just get away with multiple handballs in the area.
Yeah, any dissension in the ranks. Everyone wears gloves. And the goalie wears the same kit colour as everybody else.
There we go.
Rush goalie. There's nothing in the rules to say you can't have rush goalie.
But I enjoy the kind of blocks on the stripes. I'm calling it Disco Tetris. That's a term I'm copywriting for that one. And yeah, I like it. It's good.
Yeah.
New kit. It's good. Media release. Less than good. C+. C++. Oh.
Yeah, they're all bad, and I don't know why everybody's doing them.
Well, I don't understand. Like, I mean, it's kind of like you must think you use you're trying to use to get kind of very academic here. You're trying to use media for the purpose of what you're doing it, but you can do that in words or a picture. You know what I mean? It just feels like everybody else is doing it, so we should be doing it. And it's like
that's what it is. But now we are two old men moaning about social media, which I hate to be so cliched. What's this snap scan thing? What's that all about? Face snap. What are they doing on there?
But anyway, the shirt's out. It looks nice. No sponsor right now, so that's pretty good.
It'd be quite good, yeah. It'd be quite good to get one before sponsors go on. Is that going to be the next blurry video announcement? Sponsor unlocked. D Taxis. Remember Darbar? It was everywhere for a while. That was fun.
Darbar was everywhere, yeah. plenty of lovely body burning curries. In the Hillsborough region.
Take a D Taxis to Darbar.
Fancy after the game getting this game out of your system. do so with a very spicy boona.
Yes. Right. Shall we do this? Shall we attack the list of grey boring men? I've got 3 sites up. I've got thesacrace.com. I've got Skybet, and I've also got nicerodds.co.uk.
Ooh, nicer odds.
Yeah.
You get nicer odds on the grey men.
So the story, Chris Coleman is favourite on all 3 sites.
So somebody just put like 20p on Chris Coleman,
Probably.
so that's why it's gone down drastically. Because I really...
Left his previous post at Heavy China Fortune on the 15th of May 2019.
The hilariously titled Heavy China Fortune, because, coincidentally, he is getting a bit of a fortune to manage Heavy China Fortune.
Absolutely. So as the sort of favourite as it stands, Chris Coleman, any thoughts?
No. Hard no.
Hard no.
Hard no.
He did really well at picking Gareth Bale.
Picking Gareth Bale, yeah.
It was really visionary in how he put Wales' 3 best players on the pitch every single time he could. That was out of this world, really, management-wise.
Inspiring.
Do you know what? Ramsey, Allen, and Gareth Bale are quite a lot better than everybody else. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play those 3 guys. Really, Chris? Oh my goodness! But was a bad manager at Fulham, as far as I can remember. Has always been a guy. My least favourite manager is one that likes to drink in the praise when a team has done well, and then completely throws the players under the bus when they don't do well. Completely disowns that he's had any hand in it. And I always remember that at Fulham. They'd win 1-0 one week, and it would be, we worked on this, we worked on that. Then they'd lose, and he'd go, I don't know what the players were doing today. That's the worst, for me, the worst kind of manager, because if it's your fault when they win, it's your fault when they lose. Surely that's just at the very base level. Taking some responsibility for your actions and your...
Yeah, but then, I don't know. Yeah, it's... Some managers are very one-track in that regards, aren't they? Let's be honest. It's either... not enough people are that varied. I don't know if some of them actually are very self-aware to actually realize that's what they're doing.
Yeah. But then he was... So for whatever we thought of his time at Fulham, he was dreadful at Sunderland. It was a bizarre job to take, and he completely failed it.
I thought it was bizarre for him being like, okay, Chris, your stock is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Where are you going now? Sunderland.
Yeah, to borrow a phrase from the sort of popular Wednesday vernacular from a few years ago, to cash in his chips for that opportunity was a bizarre decision.
It was strange. It was really, really strange.
But I think it kind of speaks to his ego. Because I'm sure he thought he was going to be the guy to save Sunderland, and then he would get a good job in the Premier League. Obviously, that did not happen at all. Quite the opposite, really. So a no to Chris Coleman. Next up, Lee Bullen.
So I feel like me and you are going to have a big disagreement. Well, I feel like me and you are going to have a mini podcast co-host ruckus.
I'll walk out of this podcast. I'll leave it recording, but I will walk out. No, go,
get yourself a light beverage.
Yes.
An umbongo. That would be topical.
An umbongo, yes. I will get myself
or tropical.
A sweet, sweet tropical embargo, and quite
a soft tropical umbongo, so one without alcohol, basically.
yeah. As opposed to a usual umbongo, which are just loaded with alcohol, laced with every kind of liquor you can imagine. Okay, you go first then on.
So Bullen, I think I still feel right now maybe it's the sheer level of apathy and of the situation, the fact that this is very incredibly Sheffield Wednesday move to just be without a manager, just so close to the season, to just go off that buzz and kind of thrill of all that continuation and the good form that we were showing at the end of the season. It feels like, despite the stuff off the pitch with the financial situations, felt like morale was kind of high. So to have this situation with Bruce left now, no one at the helm, who knows if someone's coming in to kind of bring all that in. He's taken all his backroom staff. The only person left, seemingly, are Neil Thompson in the academy, Tony Stroderbit staying, and of course Lee Bullen. Lee Bullen's been a huge servant to the club. He's been around for a long time. He's seen a lot. He's had a couple of cracks of the whip at the caretaker manager position, or like holding things over until someone comes in. He is by all means in the press saying that he is ready for the job. And I think I don't know. It's one of those things where it's you're getting halfway closer to the wall every time. I don't think you're ever really at the wall, but he is getting closer. He's getting closer to being ready. Part of me thinks, with the level of apathy about the financial situation and who should be coming in, and knowing that Chansiri doesn't particularly want to look at negotiating with someone for, to bring someone in for compensation, it feels like we maybe should be okay with just Lee Bullen for a little bit. I think we'll miss the transfer window, but maybe it gives us time to actually properly look at, who's out there and interview someone who's,
Lee Bullen.
Like, I guess there's always the element: are we going to act? We're in a position where, to get things right, to get prepared for the season, we have to kind of rush. But that means making a rush decision, obviously, which isn't the best thing in the world.
Lee Bullen, for the time being, is a very different prospect to Lee Bullen getting the job, though.
It is, but do we have like a Stuart Gray situation where we give him the chance to make the job his own?
Maybe. I mean, it's interesting you sort of said, like, getting to the wall, and he's getting closer to the wall. Like, there's a sort of presumed every member of the backroom staff is just wants to be manager and is getting closer to it. And a lot of people are second in command and never get any further. And a lot of people should have stayed second in command because they were a good second in command and they were not good managers. I mean, Steve McLaren, in so many ways, was a much better assistant to Fergie than he's ever been a number one himself.
Sure.
And I think Steve Clark's another one in that bag, where he seems to be a wonderful assistant manager. I mean, it seems to be sort of part of really good, successful squads. And then as a manager, very questionable.
So there's always a question. It never seemed previously that Lee Bullen seemed to have the ambition to make it his previously. Maybe things have changed on this occasion. Maybe some things have changed. Maybe he's got the chance to go for it. Then maybe, I don't know, then maybe someone else comes in and turfs out Lee Bullen. Maybe for the sake of Lee Bullen feels he needs to do this, and this is his opportunity to make it his own. And I'm purely talking for the sake of one man, not the sake of a football club. I know that he would be dedicated. He would be someone who'd do his utmost to do the best job that he could and to be a success at Sheffield Wednesday. Saying that, I'm not... Yeah, keeping him on for a while is a good idea. I think it's mainly the best option right now in terms of the names I'm seeing is to just keep him on, see how he gets on. So
if I just kind of... I love Lee Bullen. We were talking last week about, good memories, and he was part of some of my best memories as a Wednesday fan. He was a very limited player, but a wonderful leader for that young team that took us up under Sturrock, and still managed to produce some really fascinating performances in all sorts of positions when we got back up to the championship. I don't really buy into this thing that there's a kind of destiny to him being our manager. Maybe he'll come and do a wonderful job, and I do think, like you, I think we should start the season with him in post. Nobody's going to be able to come in a week and make signings, turn things round. So the continuity of Bullen, at least for the short term, makes sense. But for me, that would be very much in mind to go and get somebody else permanently. But that gives him a chance to make it his own. I mean, you can make yourself undeniable. Stuart Gray, he made the case undeniable because he produced wonderful performances, including, was it 7-1? What was the amazing victory against Leeds?
That was a 6-0 victory.
6-0, there you go. So it was the same margin, but yeah. So I think that he didn't even officially get the job after that. I think it still took like a week or something. But that was based on performances. So what we haven't seen from Bullen is him make himself anywhere near undeniable when he's been a caretaker. So, I mean, if we start the season off with 3-4 wins, then it becomes very difficult to replace him with somebody else, especially as we've hinted at. The rest of this list is not very exciting by and large.
No.
Just shout if you want to pause on any of these, but like
you just say a bit more with Bullen is that. Yeah. So I'm not in any way definite, and I don't think it should ever really be definite for any one manager, but probably more favourables. You can probably think of more pros and cons, and that's the point where, I think for like a fan's perspective is that they're the players we want Chansiri to pull the trigger on and try and go after. In regards to Bullen, I do worry about just having all that goodwill with Wednesdayites and having a chance of also just fucking it up, basically.
We've seen that happen so often before. So many of our heroes as players have come back and ruined it all by being manager.
And I don't know if in the great context of time we can just get over that and then kind of look back at someone's time and just see it for what it is and see the good things that they did, knowing that there are going to be like negatives. I mean, it's interesting following the George Hurst situation. How did that kind of, and knowing that his dad, David, had a lot of input into that whole situation scenario and the career of his son, how does that kind of leave the legacy of David Hurst? And it seemed to kind of really him kind of sever his ties with the administration of the club. And
tarnished his reputation.
It did tarnish. How much does it come to the point where it kind of ruins someone's reputation, or how much is it just tarnish? It's just a blot on their copybook.
But I think the classic case with that is Chris Turner.
Yeah.
Chris Turner is someone who should be remembered as a cup-winning goalkeeper. And for a lot of people, he is just a terrible manager. Maybe a terrible manager with an eye for a player, because we did sign some good players that summer. But
and then the same with Danny Wilson.
Bad manager. Yeah, Danny Wilson, same bag. It's a tough road to go.
I wonder if actually then the more I think and go through this kind of thought experiment of thinking about Bullen, if we did get him the chance and I don't think he would ever tarnish his kind of modern day close to legacy at Sheffield Wednesday. I say legacy because it's the funny thing that we've been so poor for the last 20 years that, I bought these Sheffield Wednesday top trumps when I was last back in Sheffield.
Yeah.
And Lee Bullen was one of them. And you're kind of like, yeah, fair enough. You know, it's
Yeah.
who are you really going to say from the past? Star players from the past 20 years. Not really star players, but just players who've had like a fingerprint on this club. And they can have a fingerprint on this club in the modern history through being an exceptional player, being an exceptional talented player, or they can be someone who's just had a real connection. And you maybe get like for the tier and the time, you think of maybe him, you think of Samido. Um, fans have a real connection to those players, so they kind of
Yeah.
become part of the furniture. So the more I kind of talk about it, I wouldn't besmirch definitely Lee Bullen having a stint, a caretaker stint again. Let's see. Hopefully he's been a player, he's been at numerous clubs, he's worked in the backroom staff under Carvajal, under Yoss, and under Bruce. So he should have really learned a few things and developed a few things that he wants to do, a few things he doesn't want to do in that process.
I just think I saw just another good assistant that ended up being a bad manager that we had first-hand experience of was Alan Irvine. I think there's a job that you do as a member of that backroom staff.
Yeah.
That makes it difficult to then become the manager because
Yeah.
you go from being confidant and friend to being in charge, and that's a different sort of role to try and take on. I think we'll end up with an Alan Irvine-esque. We'll get some lovely wins because everybody likes Lee and Lee's lovely and it's great to.
Yeah.
He's great
exactly.
to have around. When the chips are down, we will be screwed because he just won't have the skills, the strength of personality to pick people up, to put them in their place. It's just such a different job. And actually, I think it's harder to go from that in the same dressing room, to go from that position to the leader, because you tend to be the kind of ear of the dressing room. You're friends with the players so that you can feed back to the manager what's going on. That's typically the role of an assistant.
Yeah.
And to go from that then to be the guy at the top it's a big move and a difficult move.
It's kind of a bit like being in a workplace kind of sense. It's kind of like being promoted amongst your peers.
Yes.
It's difficult. And I do want to say, Rich, that you say when the chips are down. I mean, the chips will be down when I come in as the assistant to the sports Tony Strudwick, because I've made the revelation. I'm gonna do a TED talk about it. Just athletes, potatoes are bad for athletes.
I'm just imagining you every few days to Tony, sort of going, is it just the chip bit again you want me to do, or? I've been reading about legumes, actually. No, just stick to the chips, Luke.
Legumes.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Stay in your chip lane, Luke.
Tubulars. That's what you do. It's another word for lane. That's where I want you to stay. Tubers, isn't it? Not tubulars. Anyway.
Yeah. So.
Oh well.
Do you on your list? I just want to bring this one up. So I feel like for me, and I feel like a lot of Wednesdayites, and I feel maybe yourself as well, the only name that kind of popped up initially when it was Chris Hughton.
Yes.
And he's, at the time, apparently in the papers, he said he distanced himself from the position. I think Big said recently maybe he's going to come back and, maybe it's not quite too far away from him. And I don't think it would be too bad for him. I think we're a pretty well established championship team.
Yeah.
We're in a fairly decent spot. The squad is pretty good. I think there's some limitations, but I think it should be fairly appealing for him.
Yeah. I would think so too. I suppose there's always that thing of gardening leave and things like that, isn't there? Like if he's in a position where he's actually going to earn more money not doing anything, that's a harder conversation to have with people, isn't it? But
Sure.
But still, yeah, in so many ways, I think he would be a good fit, and it should be a good position for him.
Yeah, and a good appointment. I think it would work for all parties. I think if it went well, which I think you'd be fairly confident of it happening with Houghton in the position.
Yeah, I think. I mean, he would be the dream.
He would.
How realistic it is, I don't know. He's out here at 16-1, in the sack race list. 12-1 on Sky Bet.
Are we going to go through some more rando names?
Some rando names. Well, there's Rowett or Rowett.
I don't think Rowett would be too terrible. I mean, but I know you're going into that aspect of they've come off two moderate failures.
Yeah, I think that Stoke job was really a poison chalice in that season where essentially the players aren't good enough to earn what they were earning at Stoke City at another Premier League team, so they're just going to stay there and eke out their wages.
Yeah.
Somebody like Ryan Shawcross will be on a lot of money, probably never going to get a Premier League team again, so he's going to see out that contract at Stoke till the very bitter end, and whether he plays well or not in that time really is neither here nor there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Joe Allen is kind of in that position as well. So like you've got players that will be taking up huge chunks of your budget, not bothered about playing because they're just annoyed that they didn't get asked to go anywhere else. That's such a tough season to have, especially after they've spent all year losing as well the year before. So don't hold that against him too much, but he's not seen out any particular successes elsewhere either, has he?
He was decent at Birmingham.
Decent.
He was very good at Birmingham. Let's be honest, and things kind of went very bad after he went from Birmingham.
Yeah.
And then, so because he went away from Derby, I thought he was fired from Derby, but actually Stoke paid compensation for him.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So, and Derby's, I don't know. I think what is success at Derby? Success at Derby is like 5th or 6th.
Yes.
I mean, much similar to us, but I just feel like they just seemingly they should be seemingly better equipped to do better than they do every season.
They spend the money to finish first and then finish 5th or 6th.
Finish 5th or 6th, yeah.
Or if they've got a terrible manager, 7th.
Yeah, and they're seemingly in this day and age kind of similar to us, but just a lot better equipped in terms of squad. So I don't know. He was still in work there, so maybe that's something. I thought he was fired at Derby. I thought it was that. Then I thought he went to Stoke, but apparently it's compensation that he went to Stoke, and then so didn't really pull up in trees. But I feel like his teams play okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grasping. Maybe Rowett's not quite the person I thought he was, but one of the better names, I want to say, out of work, but still one that comes with questions. And I understand. I did recently get negged on Al's Talk for suggesting Gary Rowett, but mind you, I was doing that in comparison with another one that's on your list, probably Gary Monk's on there.
Yes.
Now, should we just bring up the fact that so having a little bit of an insight into the fact that previously in Sheffield Wednesday's transfer dealing histories, it's been a lot of players from agencies that have kind of come in. And so is bringing in someone who's kind of as corrupt as them, is that good or is that bad?
Oh, who knows?
So that's the thing. And I feel like Monk is very similar to Rowett.
Yeah, his record.
Maybe slightly better in terms of football played, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, his record at Leeds and Middlesbrough, pretty close to 50% win rate in both those jobs, which, to be honest, nobody else vying for the role is even close to. But that's a pocket in a career that's bookended by much less successful roles. So, don't know.
It could be okay. I don't know. I'm just very cautious of his past dabblings. And if I think if that hadn't come out, maybe I think he'd be higher stock for me. But still, yeah, I don't know. Some questions. But that's the thing. I think everyone's going to kind of come in with questions. And then I think we're going into the realm of managers for all out of work, is that they have achieved something at some point. It just hasn't been recently, so the stock isn't high right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a great list, really.
It never is, but these never are. They're the most, and I feel like I should probably have a look into, like, I imagine these conversations go on at fans of other clubs as well. It can't just be us. Like, there's always a betting laundry list of some of the been there, done that people who just aren't particularly well established and well liked. Yeah. So, do you want to go through the list?
Yeah. Okay. Want is a carrying a lot of weight there.
Sure.
So we've already talked about Coleman, who's sort of the betting favorite. Lee Bullen is kind of 3-1 or thereabouts. Rowe at 8-1, or on Sky Bet 5-1. Then Tony Pulis at 10-1.
So seemingly a reiteration of our time under Mr. Megson.
Yes. Awful football, sometimes effective football. He's that classic thing, though. If you get results, you sort of don't mind the football, but if you don't get results and you don't have the football, that's just the worst of all worlds. Nigel Pearson, another ex-player.
Yeah, that would never happen.
No.
I don't want it to happen either. I really do not want. Really, really do not want Pearson.
And then we start to get into some weird ones now. So Zola.
Hard no.
Yeah. Daniel Stendhal, the Barnsley manager.
The Barnsley man, interesting, yeah. And I guess there's been some rumors of, it's pretty fresh. He achieved promotion with Barnsley. Apparently they play like a high press.
Does he play that Gen pressing?
That Gangan style. Yeah.
Yeah. As promoted by Sai.
Exactly. Yeah. That's how they very, very pressing in South Korea. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. Yeah, where is this one coming from?
He seemingly did really well at Feyenoord and then lost his job or left.
Yeah, but it seems a bit pipe dreamish to think.
Yeah, well, he's just a manager and we have a job open. He's a manager that doesn't have a job.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rich. Sorry, I forgot this was a betting list. Sorry, I know, but it's just.
Well, no, but it's just now we are increasingly in the realms of how the heck is this person here? Nigel Adkins, terrible choice. Sol Campbell, Paul Cooch.
Paul Cooch.
Paul Cooch. He's always got a sore throat. Always been shouting. Literally just a second to stop shouting. Paul Cooch.
So
I miss him from Radio Sheffield. Maybe we should try and go for him just for that aspect.
Just so you can work on your impression of him.
I've just been screaming. I've spent the last 6 hours screaming at the top of my lungs.
I must say that was the highlight of the Irvin reign, was just the post match. I think all of his commentary just, Exeter, they're like a second coming of the total football of Amsterdam. Yeah, I don't know. Paul Cook could be okay, but he's in work, isn't he?
He's in work, as is Danny Cowley, there's a lot at 33 to 1. 33 to 1.
I would like the Cowley bros.
Kike Flores, 33 to 1. Ian Holloway, 33 to 1. Anthony Hudson of the Colorado Rapids.
I made a note about Mr. Hudson. I said, if I could fail it there, I could fail it anywhere. It's up to you, Colorado.
He's bringing in he's bringing in a 31% win rate from 19 games at Newport County, 25 games with Bahrain, 27 games at New Zealand, and winning 17.5% of his games at Colorado Rapids. That's weird and terrible. What a fun combination. So Jokanovic, Slavisa
Jokanovic, yes, and the previously touted Chansiri has previously batted his own eyelashes the way of Jokanovic previously. So, but he's currently getting Qatari big bucks, isn't he?
Yes, so. He's with Al Gharafa and has been with them for 1 month and 4 days. He's felt the comforting warmth of that first Saudi paycheck, and
I'm sure he turned up and said, "I've supported this team." had the team phonetically spelled out for him on a bit of paper, which he referred to.
My dad was a fan of Al Gharafa, so it was natural for me to become a fan of Al Gharafa.
Once I caught the Al Gharafi Gafi Viva, it's hard to get a cure, isn't it, Rich?
Then we have the Dutch Bulldog of Martin Jol. He has left his post at Al-Hi Cairo 3 years ago. He hasn't had a job for 3 years. But he's an enjoyable sort of bulldog of a human being. It's a very random one.
I feel like if we're still going back, I don't know.
These are all apparently equal odds. They're all 33 to 1.
You say Holloway's 33 to 1?
Holloway's so the list of 33 to 1 started at Nigel Adkins, and continues past Martin Jol to Aitor Karanka, Neil Lennon, somebody called Fatih Tekke
Yes, I saw about Mr. Tekke, Turkish former striker, and has managed a few Turkish teams. Yeah. Hasn't achieved any great success.
So that's all the 33 to 1s.
I'm surprised Holloway's not like a bit bigger in terms of. I thought someone might have put 5p on Holloway, and now he's like.
Well, this is presumably they're giving you the plum odds. So from all realistic view, he's pretty far out on.
Some people have mentioned Holloway on Else Talk recently, and I
don't know.
Yeah,
we all think of if you want to think positive of him, you can think of that crazy Blackpool team that kind of took all of the weird Lego bits that nobody wanted and somehow managed to make a really cool spaceship.
Yes, that's an amazing analogy, Rich. I love that. That's great. They did well with Palace as well. Yeah, but going back to Blackpool, everyone's bringing their own pack sandwich wrapped in foil.
Yes.
And just and somehow out of the magic of this, we've created like a Disney rags to riches story.
I mean, there was definitely an element of throwing as much to maintain a family friendly aspect on this, as much spaghetti at the wall as possible, and seeing whether enough of it stuck, because that he signed Bullen, not Bullen. He signed Bannon for Blackpool, or was it Crystal Palace he signed Bannon for?
Yeah, signed for Palace, I think.
Palace.
Yeah, he was at
Because he
Palace.
just signed everybody, and he signed Bannon and didn't have a squad place for him because he signed so many players that summer.
He's a big fan of Bannon, though, isn't
he? He had him at Blackpool as well. He was on loan at Blackpool, I think, from Villa. But he managed to turn Luke Varney into a Premier League striker.
See, and then like it's incredibly. We went back to like talking about last week about football managers sometimes understanding very primitive things about football, which we think as fans, but then we think, well, no one else is doing it, so maybe it's just nonsense. And that basically, like I'm saying, is let's just pretend we're playing Pro Evolution Soccer and then just buy a bunch of players who've got like 90 odd pace.
Yes.
Or your 18 to 20 pace on your champ man and footy mans of the world. But it seems to work for Warnock, and then Holloway does the same. Holloway buys a lot of pacey players.
Yeah.
And seemingly is his rebirth in football management when he came back to Blackpool and found success was basically he went on the continent and discovered 4-3-3 to kind of be very primitive. And he just signs a lot of pacey wingers and pacey strikers.
Yeah.
And he just goes on a pretty attack minded, and it seems to work. So
yeah, it hasn't worked for a while.
It hasn't worked for a while. It's been a long time since.
Pretty poor spell at Millwall. It's slightly above average at QPR, but QPR
people were saying
kind of basket case, isn't it?
Yeah, people were saying that he did, played us off the pitch a couple of times with QPR. At times played some good stuff. I don't know.
I'm sure we'd play. It would probably be a bit like Brian Laws, I think.
Yeah.
One game plan. When it works, we'll win 5-0. When it doesn't work, which will be a lot of the time, we'll leave frustrated because we will always have a bit in the game, even if we get shown up for our naivety at times. He's had some success at our level, which not all of these people have. It's really, there's nobody, Houghton aside, there's nobody that you're clapping your hands at the very prospect of, which I think is why you end up thinking, well, maybe giving Bullen a go is as good as any other option, really, because there's nothing else here that you're kind of jumping at the chance to see.
Yeah. But again, the nature of football management is just be incredibly cynical about this. And who knows how long it would have worked with Bruce until it failed. I think that's the question. How long does it work until it fails? Can it work long enough with a club for them to achieve some degree of success? And that's what you kind of want on Wednesday, really.
Well, it sort of needs to be success today as well, because the unspoken bit, the elephant in the room this week really is, okay, we've sold our ground and made a profit this year. That won't happen next year. So we'll have another year where we've got 20 million in losses.
Yeah.
So is this the last roll of the dice this season?
But I don't feel that so then the next question is, when's the rebuild going to happen?
That was supposed to be this summer, wasn't it?
But we still, Chansiri doesn't want to sell players. So we just lose players for end of contract. What's going to happen to Forestieri this year?
Who knows?
It's his final year of his contract, right?
Yeah. I've got a lot of time for Chancery, and I think by and large he's been a pretty positive influence, but his attitude towards selling players I have never understood and will never understand. And I remain convinced the parallel universe where we just let Forestieri go after him refusing to travel to Norwich, we probably did a lot better that season, because what is the point in having such a negative influence about the place?
Yeah, but
we
I
see
hate
it
to
with
do
Rhodes
this.
as
Like,
well.
yeah,
This season and last, holding out for what we paid for Rhodes when he's a year older, another year more tarnished, is unrealistic and only hurts us really in the long run.
and I'm still curious. Like, how much longer do we have Rhodes for? Is it 1 year or is it 2 years?
I think it's 2, but I wouldn't be held to it. Yeah, it's very tricky, but that would make me, if we're right in presuming that this is a very important season and getting up would make it, make all those frightening deadlines fall away. That would be a reason to go and at least try and get somebody that's in a job if you need to, or chase after Houghton and give him a package that makes the garden seem less enticing.
Yeah, really make those petunias go to shit, right?
Oh dear. Well, we've done a lot of talking.
We have. I think we've covered managerial. We've talked about the kit. We've talked about, yeah, we've covered pretty much everything, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, shall I end with my tortuous analogy about
Please
Bruce?
do. Please do.
So, the playoff final, he felt betrayed by Hull City, and we felt betrayed by Hull City. Almost like the sort of spare partners who'd been cheated on. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And through sort of, spending that time looking things up on Facebook and thinking over the end of that relationship, we happened upon the idea that what would be really good is, because they cheated on us, we would get together, and that would be the kind of positive to come out of it. So we had to employ Bruce. It had to happen. But it didn't work because it happened for the wrong reasons. So it was always going to fall apart. It was always going to end badly. But it had to happen. It was inevitable. So there you go. That's my terrible analogy for this week.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And that's Different Gravy, ladies and gentlemen. The podcast where we say there are too many Sheffield Wednesday podcasts. Let's have another one.
Absolutely.
People like them. Let's do more.
Well, have a good week, Luke.
Have a good one, Rich.
Jerry, bye.
Jerry, bye.